So let's move on to the third part of the day, dealing with the creation of link between research, training, and practice as designed this morning by Christophe. This is central in the objective of Research University School. Now, University Research School, sorry. So we want to share with you a survey which concerns the careers of the PhD students of H2O Lyon. We'd like to show you results with a larger group, larger panel. We're taking stock of the situation, and this is very useful to develop the actions of the EUR. The survey was done together with the Gray and the Zabre. The objective was to take stock of the professional situation of former H2 Lyon and Zabre PhD graduates to identify the obstacles and leverage to promote their employability, identify the potential networks. We used a panel of contacts. We had former PhD students from H2 Lyon and from the Zabre who got their thesis in between 2006 and 2019. And we did the first survey in 2020, 30 responders. It opened a couple of leads, and we wanted to go further and to have a more representative panel. Hence, we started the survey again together with the Gray, and we got 87 responders or response rate, which is almost 53% response rate. And this is what I'm going to discuss now. So what did we ask them, all those doctors? So what was their PhD courses, their professional career? How did they valorize their diploma? And what are the tools to develop for employability of, and would they be interested to do networking with the EUR and the ZAB? The 87 responders who are there were men, women, globally balanced, engineers, doctors, which is a percentage of engineers in the H2 Lyon community. And when it comes to time between from the thesis, so you see less than 3 years, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 1/3 over 9. 75% of labs are represented by these responders in proportions that actually reflect the reality of the H2 Lyon community. That is basically the number of doctors or this is quite representative of what the H2O Lyon community today. First thing we looked at, what was their current situation, employment, and what career they're following. Well, most of them are in long-term contract and permanent contract, and other are in fixed-term contract. Only 4% are looking for jobs, and 4% were entrepreneurs, and they were looking for, some were looking for the academic world or the professional world. For a fixed-term contract and permanent contract, well, you can see the on the bottom left, it evolves in time with time. Between 3-6 years, majority are permanent contract. Beyond 6 years, they're all in permanent contract. What professions? Well, half of them are in the so-called academic professions, and the other half in so-called practitioners of the socio-economic world. And this evolves as well throughout the with time. Between initially, a lot of them are in the academic world, because often, PhD doctor will do a postdoctorate diploma, and 3 to 6 years, we got a majority of them are in the socioeconomic domain, so 70% of practitioners and about 30% of those who remain in the academic world. So we looked also at their profiles in the and for the academic career, half of them are in permanent and fixed term contract. And for permanent contract, when did they get their title? Following their thesis. And for those who have a title, well, it's between 2 to 4 years between after the thesis. And then how long after the thesis did they get the first job? The first job, more than 2/3 got a job within 6 months after they're getting their PhD. The academic career in terms of position, well, mainly they're teachers, researchers, research engineers, research officers. A large part are postdoctoral, doctorate, and most mainly, of course, universities, the employment in RAE, as well as schools and the CNRS, which is the National Scientific Research Center in France. For non-academic career, most of them are in a permanent contract, and the first contract is less than 2 years after the thesis, which is quite short, actually. And if we are to look at the first job after the thesis, well, for 2/3 of them, they get a job when they complete their PhD. So the employability is quite rapid. And part of them are entrepreneurs or self-entrepreneurs who they started their own business. Now, in which domain do they work? Mostly, of course, they're employed by industries, big corporations like CNR, EDF, French Electricity Board, and other companies, but others are found in design of engineering office, in local authorities, in public and state institutions, state public institutions. So National Office for Forest, and they are also in associations and more rarely in consulting practice offices. These are the main domains you see where they currently work. And when it comes to positions, okay, what position do they occupy? Well, mainly they correspond to their PhD, because the managers, head of department, head of team, head of project, mission officers, R&D engineers, professions that match their diploma. Then we asked them what was the valorization of the doctorate in their career when they were in the socioeconomic world, because those who are in the academic world, well, basically it is quite obvious they will valorize that PhD. So those who are in the socioeconomic world, almost all of them put forward their PhD, when they get hired, positive. And what competence did they put forward most? And four come out, methodology and scientific stringency, discipline skills acquired during the thesis, adaptability, autonomy, and openness to interdisciplinarity. So this is the valorization of their PhD. Then we also asked them if they felt that their PhD was a barrier or hindered the hiring. But about a third said actually they felt this as a kind of a blockage or a barrier. And so why did they feel was a sort of a barrier or an obstacle? Where first the PhD is considered as over specialized, his salary is often higher than the position request, and the doctor doesn't know the code of the enterprise and is lacking operational skills. Those are, three different aspects that could be worked on. Then they were also asked if their salaries or wages corresponded that to a bac plus 8. half of them consider yes, or another half says no. So it's kind of a balanced results when it comes to the understanding of their salary and the valorization of the PhD. Then we also asked them what would be the tools to be developed by H2O Lyon to foster professional insertion of PhD graduates. Well, this came out of discussion that took place last year in the steering committee of H2O Lyon, but it comes also from surveys and studies carried out in the ministry, state ministry, for the insertion of PhD graduates, and four means that they all agreed upon, basically. Well, one, is specific to water and hydrosystem science. Well, the to have a better knowledge of the domain of water, what are the players, the rules, and so on. And others are more general, which could apply to any domain, basically. To all PhD students, training to identify and put forward the skills and competence, training and support to create professional networks, and project management module around concrete cases, because a lot of them found that project management is something that is missing in their skills when they when they get a more personal job. All those are elements that we are going to use in the EUR to work on some aspect. Those former doctors of the community are for H2O Lyon and for the Zabre. This is a resource of pool of individuals who could be mobilized. We asked them if they would like to be contacted again to help us in the project. Most of them said yes. So in blue here, you see the academic, and in green, the operationals being mostly in France. But it's a major network of people who could be used as resources. And those people were mobilized for the Objective Pro Day, which is to be introduced just after me. So we started working on with them. Now, as a summary, this study is useful for us to know how to build things in the EUR. It is valorizing for the doctors from the H2O Lyon and Zabre community, the PhD, because the employment is rapid, good, and in professions which match their diploma. The PhD is put forward, but it could be used more as a plus, and it is felt by many of the PhD graduates as a kind of a barrier or hindering. And we were able to, it means that we need to mobilize a national network, and it is a survey that should be repeated in 5 or 10 years to see the evolution and see what we can, how we can contribute to this thematic. And this is for the situation. If you do have questions, do not hesitate.
Bernard. Merci. Bonjour à tous. J'ai une question.
I have a question and a comment. Question is, do you know the salary? How much do they get? First. Second, in your survey, 53% of response rate, which is good, but so maybe there is a bias due to the fact that the non-responders maybe would have had different view, convey different image, because yeah, this is quite a positive image, but so the bias in this type of survey is very difficult to, but now for the non-responders, do you have any idea where they are, what they do? Well, right now, with everything that's on the internet, LinkedIn and so on and so forth, it's easy to find them. Well, mainly non-responders are people who didn't have the proper mail address, who changed their business, so we were not able to contact them. But we looked at what they had become, and it reflects that in terms of employment, it is a reflection of the study. It matches the study, well, the same type of result. Now, as to how they feel when it comes to the valorization of their PhD and so on and so forth, we don't know. But basically, it's the business, well, the practitioners and academics, the percentage is the same. As to the wage, the salaries, well, it's very subjective. It will depend on in which industry or domain they work. That's why we asked them the question, what was their feelings, how they felt about it, but we don't have any objective basis.
Merci.
Thank you.
Another question? So in the academic environment, there are many people who start postdoctoral studies. And I think it would be interesting to see how long it takes people after their postdoctoral studies to find a job. That might be one of the challenges of H2O, to see whether, it helps postdoctoral students who are excellent to find lasting jobs. Does it take 2 years, 3 years, 5 years time? Depending on, because they are in a precarious situation. So it would be interesting to find out that information. Yes, that's something that we can transform into an indicator, because we've got the first position and we know how long they have been postdoctoral students. So we know how long it takes. We can get that information. Are you allowed another question? Yes, one last question. So a question now that's for practitioners. It's linked to possible competition that they had when on recruitment. So with respect to engineering schools, is that something that you look at as well? It seems important to me. For the academic, not so much, but for practitioners, yes. They are necessarily competing with people coming out of engineering schools. How did they deal with that? What is the share? Yes, that is definitely something that we should look at already in the study. We should be able to see the difference between doctors who are engineers and doctors who are not, because engineers have specific skills, so they can be recruited thanks to those skills. So that's certainly an interesting area that we could explore as part of the study. Yes, perhaps when you've got a little bit more hindsight with respect to what's been done in the school, look at what the added value is with respect to the national picture of trends in terms of how postdoctoral students are cashing in on their skills. Look at interdisciplinary aspects, look at laboratories. Yes, that was one of the objectives, to look at to start with T0 at the start of the UR.